What's going on, everybody? I am that driving guy, and my office gets me where I'm going. If this is your first time, go ahead and subscribe, hit the bell, and hit all. That way, you're notified every time I drop a video. All right, so this is a strategy that I implemented into my little work day um, to get more and better tips. And I wanted to share it with you all because it has worked for me. It has increased a lot of my tips. It's gotten me tips in situations where I may not have gotten a tip initially. So it's really effective if you are consistent with it and you implement it the right way. So the reason I came up with this, or how I came up with this strategy, is because one day I was doing a grocery order and I picked the order up. It was a pick up and deliver. So I picked the order up and I delivered it to where it needed to be. And I usually get these grocery orders every day at the same time in the morning because I get an early start. So, and they're usually going to the same place. It's a little farther out. So, I try to get those out the way early in the morning. So I received this order and I delivered the order. So as I'm getting the groceries out and putting them at the door, I ring the customer's doorbell so that they can come out and start getting the groceries to take in. So I get the last of them, and the lady says, "Oh, do you have Vimo or Cash App?" Vimo is another thing that I heard a lot during my little experiment, but I said I had Cash App or whatever. She said she didn't have cash or whatever for a tip, so she said she'll Cash App me a tip. I was like, okay. So I pull up the Cash App and she lets me know that there's a QR code that she can scan, which I knew nothing about. I was not familiar with this on Cash App. Maybe some of you were. I'm sure a lot of you probably are familiar with it. Me, I wasn't. I clicked on the little barcode, pulled up the QR code. She scanned it. I thanked her and I left. Right. So I get to my car and I see she tipped me $15. She had already tipped in the app as well. Um, so because the order came up to like $20, so she had already tipped like $10 in the app and then gave me an additional 15. So I was like, oh, okay, that's what's up. Then it got me thinking, like, okay, now maybe I can try to implement this and find a way so that the customers can tip me through Cash App instead of tipping me through the Doordash app. So I started my little experiment. So I was like, okay, so what can I do, or how can I set this up to make an impression to kind of get the customer engaged? So I said, I'll send out two texts. So I send out the first text is my introduction. Hello, my name is, I'll be handling your order today. If you have any changes or updates that you need to make, feel free to contact me. And if I have any issues or problems, I'll contact you. That's the first message that I send. You can word it however you want, whatever fits into your personality, whatever, however you want. But that's what I go up. Those are the words I use. So I send this first message. Now, I do this for two reasons. I do this, one, to open up the lines of communication with the customer, to show my customer service skills, and also to see whether or not the customer is paying attention to their phone. So I'm looking for a response to the first text that I sent. Now, if I get a response from that customer, that lets me know that they are engaged, that they're paying attention to their phone, they're paying attention to their order. Enough where if I sent another message, if something did happen to go wrong with the order, they would be able to respond back to me, or I wouldn't have to wait long for them to respond back to me. I'm paying attention to all of these things when I send out that first message, but I'm really looking for that response. If I don't get the response, then I don't send the second text because they're probably not paying attention. If I get a response back, then I send my second message. By the way, based off of your satisfaction of my great customer service and delivery of your order, you can cash at me my tip upon arrival. Is that okay? That's the message. I'm letting them know that, you know, I want them to be satisfied with my delivery, my customer service skills. A lot of times it's nothing to the order. You pick it up, you drop it off. But I want to bring attention to that customer. I want them to be aware of me, right? And kind of open up the lines of communication, build that rapport with that customer, and try to make sure that I'm doing all the right things, which you should be anyway. It could be natural. It's probably natural to some of you to do the right things anyway. But I want to make sure that I stand out. So I send that second text to them. Now, for that, I'm looking for that agreement. So that's why it's important to ask, is that okay? Because you want to get that agreement from them. So now that they're aware that you expect the tip and you want it to be based off of your customer service. You want it to be based off of you because, you know, their previous dasher may have been trash, right? And they may have that in the back of their minds about that. So you want to make sure that you separate yourself from them, right? And you want the customer to be aware of that, and they can tip you based off of your service to them. So some of the things that you may hear, because these are things that I've heard when I was doing this. I've heard some people say they don't have Cash App. I didn't want to push the issue too much to tell them they can download it or whatever. So I just let that go. Okay. All right. Some people said that they had Vimo instead. So that is another app that you can download as well and use it in case people don't have Cash App. I also heard a lot of people say that they tipped in the app already. So that was a lot of the responses that I got from it as well. Even with some of those responses, some of the people that said that they tipped in the app already, I still was able to get an additional $5 from them. Their tips usually ranged when they tipped, it was like between $3 to $5 that they had already tipped. But I was able to, with these messages, able to get them to tip an additional $5. So it was effective in that way. And then there was that one perfect example of a customer having the previous dasher in mind. I did a delivery. I sent my first message. The girl said, okay, to the first message. She said, thank you. Okay. So I send the second message. So she says, okay. She just says, okay. So I'm like, all right. It was a leave at the door order. So I get there, right? I get there and she had a couple of drinks and some food. So she wasn't outside at the door and it was a leave at the door. So I'm like, all right, she agreed, but I was I didn't know if I should ring the bell, if I should send another message, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to leave it alone because she was aware, but she's not out here, so maybe she forgot or whatever, so I'm going to leave it alone. But as I'm putting the order down, she has a screen door that opened up outside. So I'm telling you, it had to be a full 30 minutes. I'm sorry, 30 minutes. I'm bugging. A full 30 seconds of me trying to make sure that the drinks and the food weren't by the screen door, so that, I couldn't, it was hard for me to judge because of the way that the screen door was. So it was like a full 30 seconds of me trying to put the order and the food and the drinks in the right place so that she wouldn't knock it over or anything when she opened the screen door. So I finally put the stuff down. I turn around and I walk away. I hear the screen door open up behind me, and she says my name. She says my name. Now the first thing, I turn around and I'm bugging because I'm thinking, how does she know my name? I wasn't even thinking. I'm like, it was like a quick second. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, how does she know my name? And then she was like, I was watching you through the doorbell. She had to ring the camera thing. She was like, the last dasher left my food and my drinks in front of my door, and I opened my door and knocked over my stuff. And goes into the story. We started talking about that or whatever. And she was like, I saw you was trying to make sure that my stuff wasn't there. And I reiterated that, and we laughing about it or whatever. And she was like, you said that you have the Cash App thing? Scanned my barcode or whatever, gave me a $10 tip. So I'm telling you, it works. It works. And it's a perfect example of making sure you do the right things. Doing those simple things, handling the order the proper way, especially if after you send a message that kind of spotlights your customer service, right? Doing those little things, following up on those things, making sure you provide that customer experience, it pays off. And I'm thinking, I probably would have just put those orders down and kept it moving. Maybe the customer may not have even been thinking about it and be like, oh, well, they didn't do the same thing, and maybe just gave me a better rating possibly, right? But by me sending those messages, it kind of made them aware that, I wanted them to tip me based off of what I provided. You know what I'm saying? Not the other way around. And a lot of the apps have the customer tip beforehand. Like I said, those are things that you will hear from a customer. Another thing, like the worst thing that you can get is no response at all. That's the worst thing. And I got that on a few orders, mainly orders that were leave at the door orders. So these are things that you may experience if you implement this. But if you are consistent, do my experiment, and I experimented for 2 weeks. And I felt like that was a good enough time to see whether or not it was something that was effective for me. And I found, like I said, it boosted my tips, right? It got me tips in situations where I may not have gotten a tip. And I tried it on orders as low as $5. I couldn't go lower than $5, right? Because I still had my goals and I just didn't want to go below $5. You can if you choose to. But I just didn't want to go below $5. But even on those $5, $6, $7 orders, I was able to get an additional $5 on most of them. One time, I sent out my messages. The customer agreed, but when I got there, they explained to me that they didn't have it at that time or whatever. They giving me their reason why they they couldn't give me a tip, but they scanned my QR code anyway, right? So as soon as I got to the car and got my next order, I kind of forgot about it. I didn't think about it. The next day, that customer sent me a $20 tip. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it was something that I wasn't expecting. You know what I mean? Because I had forgot about it. But it just goes to show you, if you leave an impression that, and you have patience, I mean, you just never know what can happen. You don't know what that person's situation is. You don't know what they're basing not tipping on. Like I said, maybe the previous dasher was trash and they're basing it off of that. And or maybe they just didn't have it at that time, like he said, and they try to make up for it. So this is something that I feel, for me, at least in my market, it has worked for me, and it's something that I'm going to continue to implement into my strategy, because it's been working for me, and I hope that it can work for you. If you try it out, stay consistent, think about it. You really don't have anything to lose. You only have something to gain. Make the customer aware. Shine. Separate yourself from a dasher who wasn't as good previously, and get that extra money. I appreciate y'all as always, and until next time, I'm a holler.